Hello, everybody. It's the Freelance Teacher Podcast. I'm Doug Marola. Today is August 12th, 2017, and I know that there has been a tragedy in Charlotte. I'm aware of that. I'm intentionally giving you a video cast loosely related on something else. So it's not only August 12th, the date of the Charlotte tragedy, but it's also coincidentally George Soros' birthday. He's 87. Just an odd coincidence, of course. These things are always coincidental. They're never intentional. You have to remember, believing in conspiracy theory is bad. Believing in coincidence theory, well, that's totally okay. Nothing wrong with that. And you'll go far if you can maintain that philosophy in your mind, that these things are just coincidences. But what I'd like to do is tell you reasonably quickly what I'm thinking with regards to what to do when you have something like this go on, because it's so easy to get swept up in the maelstrom and the chaos of what people want you to think and what agenda they're going to push because of a tragedy. And it's hard to avoid that. So that's why I actually wrote down the title, Things to Do Instead of Being Told What to Think Today. Because every group is going to tell you, oh, here's the reason why this happened. Here are the people to blame. Here are the races to blame. Here's the section of society to blame. Here's the gender you can blame it on. Here's the previous event and the politician you can pin it on. For a young person today, that can be a lot. And the young people today never let me down, because they'll come to me and ask me my opinion, or what they do that's even more admirable is ask me great questions instead of the shallow, nonsensical, usually race-baiting questions that the mainstream media and academia come up with. I'm talking about the Slates and the Salons and the MSNBCs and the Media Matters, these groups. Fox is as guilty as anybody. They'll come up with these terrible questions that, of course, are loaded questions, or questions intended to railroad you and your thoughts and your opinions into their narrative, into their thing that they want you to believe. So instead of saying, in detail, you can ask me personally if you want to know what I actually think of what happened in Virginia today, although I am not hardly an expert. I'm following events as anyone else. But what I'm doing today, besides taking care of my family and doing things that a father is supposed to do, is I'm listening to School Sucks Podcast 508. And that's a weekend with Thaddeus Russell. Brett Venant and Thaddeus Russell got together with a group of people who went there voluntarily. And they're talking about school and academia. And about 2+ hours in, I want to say 2 hours and 12 minutes or so, Thaddeus Russell, who is an academic and is an intellectual, he talks about academia. And I recommend, again, School Sucks number 508, because he talks about the accreditation process. He talks about affirmative action. He talks about the campus atmosphere in general. And this is a subject in which he's an expert. He was a professor at Barnard, Columbia, and Occidental, and he was a student in graduate school and undergrad, of course. So you have maybe the genesis of some of the madness that you're seeing today on social media in particular. Where does it come from? So when you look at academia and stuff like that, I mean, there's Hollywood and there are other forces at work, and globalism and things like that. Those are all in the political scale. Those are much more grandiose, slower moving, kind of like oil tanker type forces moving around the planet today. But academia is more nimble. Academia is something that is able to say things in the main on that day. So, you have professors that are going to use events like today. It's not, I just happen to be doing this today, but they'll take events and they'll say, well, here's this event, it happened because of policy X or because of belief X. And they will use that to advance what they believe. That's their agenda. So what you've got is an example. The easiest example to come up with is the gun argument, where when someone gets killed by a pistol or a rifle, usually, and I'm picking on academia on purpose. I know there's other people, but let's stick with academia for now. You'll have professors who can't be fired. Tenured professors will rant in front of young people about how there should be more gun control or guns should be banned. And they'll say, well, here's this event, and then they pin it on their belief. And that's not right. And B, this is just what they believe. This isn't exactly, they're not teaching you anything. They're trying to shoehorn you into believing what they believe. And you're going to see that same thing today, without a doubt. So I can only imagine. I'm actually not looking forward to going on Facebook. I use Facebook to reach current and former students. I thought about deleting my Facebook account a zillion times, and I never have. And I've had a Facebook account since late 2005. So I'm kind of like patient zero almost when it comes to Facebook. It was boring and slow, and I ignored it for probably 2 or 3 years, practically ignored it. So anyway, my point is I'm not looking forward to that, because everybody, I've already seen it on Twitter, is using this to advance their agenda. And I'm talking to you now, teenagers. You don't need to jump in with their agenda, whatever it is. They're going to say certain things about people of race. They're going to say white people are like this, or they're going to talk about divisions of people. The alt-right is this, or black people are this, or, oh, wait, this event is excusable because you have this other violent event from the other group of people, and that was okay, so now this person must have thought that, well, now this is okay. I mean, you see where I'm going with this? It gets crazy. So you're maybe better off. Actually, I think you're better off, because it's what I'm doing, and I think it works, by looking at other things. So I'm listening. I'm just telling you what I'm listening to today, and I'm doing it intentionally, is School Sucks Podcast 508, Weekend with Thaddeus Russell. And again, there's a lot of high notes talked in there. It's a wonderful podcast. I highly recommend it. And so when Russell, I have to talk to you guys about this, because when he goes into academia and explains the accreditation process, how it got started, why colleges are the way they are today, why things go down the way they do, it really makes things like the reaction to today's event make a lot of sense, particularly in academia or those close to it or those recently removed from it. The other thing to do that I recommend, and the School Sucks Podcast 508 is 2+ hours. There's a Reuben Report video cast. He interviews, it looks like a TV interview actually, with Eric Weinstein. Eric Weinstein is a mathematician, and he is the brother of Brett Weinstein, who was maligned and screamed at and called all kinds of names at Evergreen State College, and I've talked about that in a previous video cast. But the Reuben Report with Eric Weinstein, they also talk about Brett, Eric's brother. They talk about his situation, and they talk about who he is and why things went down the way they did at Evergreen State College. And it's an amazing lens by somebody with a math background taking a look at what's gone on in campus life, in university life. And they use, of course, Brett Weinstein's situation as a lens. And it's quite eye-opening. Again, it's the Reuben Report, and it's with Eric Weinstein. And it's worth your time. It's probably an hour and 10 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes. And it's exceedingly thoughtful. And I recommend it highly. And it's much more useful to you, I think, to get that kind of intellectual base from these people. Again, I'm 45. I've taught high school English for 20 years. I read a lot. I think I'm a reasonably competent person in terms of history, academics, economics, politics, the social structure of the world, things like that. You guys know I like conspiracy theories. So these things build you a better base, and they enable you to think for yourself when everybody wants to do the thinking for you. And everybody wants to tell you what to believe. And everybody wants you to do as they do and think the way they do, right? This group tribalism thing is very strong. And my last note is, and it kind of goes back to what's his name's birthday today, is the people at the top of the pyramid, they know this. And they're, the way I see it, and you can call me a conspiracy theorist. Look, I've taught in a bad neighborhood school for well over 20 years. You can't call me anything that I haven't been already called that's going to offend me. Every once in a while in the comments, somebody puts something snarky. Doesn't happen too often. And I brush it off. I laugh it off because it's not yet nearly as creative or rough as anything I get to my face at my regular job. So knock yourself out by calling me a conspiracy theorist. But the conspiracy is, and I don't think it's necessarily a conspiracy, is that the people at the top of the pyramid, they enjoy poking the hornet's nest. They enjoy using their knowledge of human psychology to make things more difficult and rougher for us. And they know that people are tribalistic. They know that people like being around themselves. People like themselves in some way, whether it's the way they look or the way they feel or their ethnic background or the kind of food or their geographical representation or religion or race. They know this. It's not a hard and fast rule. 100% of humans are like that, but a lot of them are. And they use that knowledge. Their knowledge of psychology is very good. And they know what buttons to push. So rather than get caught up in some globalist mainstream media train wreck, build your base of knowledge today rather than get caught up in the finger pointing and shrieking and screaming that is inevitably going to happen. It's mid-afternoon today, and I can just imagine the craziness that's going to go on with this Charlotte thing, with everybody using it to advance their own thoughts. Don't let them advance their thoughts on you. Why don't you build up your own thoughts and be an independent thinker? Then you'll be somebody of note. Then you'll make a difference. And then you'll be able to do what I think you should do, which is present your best self to the world. Don't try to fix the world. You fix yourself. And you present your best self to the world, and you work on that every day. Physically, spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually. That's my message for you today. I hope it helped. Talk to you guys later. See you next time at the Freelance Teacher Podcast, thefreelanceteacher.com, and tfttravelgroup.com. Take care. Have a great one.